Okay, well, as many of you are starting to enter our interest session for psychology, I just want to welcome all of you that are joining. My name is Aaron Nakamura, and I am the Director for Marketing and University Relations here at Walla Walla University. And as people are still starting to come in, I just want to announce, if you have not already, you can join our virtual U Days Facebook group, and you can find a link to that on the virtual U Days webpage at wallawalla.edu/virtual U Days. And you should have been receiving emails about this. But on there is it's a link to our Facebook group. And if you join this Facebook group just by simply joining, introducing yourself and commenting on some posts, we're giving away free stuff. We're giving away an Eno hammock. We're giving away Apple AirPods. We're giving away gift cards. We're giving away Walla Walla University hoodies. So we're giving away free stuff. All you have to do is join our virtual U Days group we've made specifically for you. And also on the virtual U Days webpage, again, that's wallawalla.edu/virtual U Days. We have videos and interviews with many of our other programs as well. So if you're interested in finding out more about the university specific programs, we put a lot of resources and time into sharing this information with you. So join our Facebook group, visit and explore our virtual U Days webpage. And if you have any questions, reach out to our marketing team on the lower bottom right hand corner of that webpage. There's a little chat bubble, and one of our team members will point you in the right direction or answer your questions. So I'm going to jump right into it here. This is the psychology interest session. And so if you're here, you are interested in this program, interested in possibly this major. And I want to bring two special individuals, our presenters today, Dr. Linda Ivey and Dr. Peter Gleason. Dr. Linda Ivey is a professor of psychology, and she teaches both graduate and undergraduate courses here at Walla Walla University. She is a licensed clinical psychologist, and she received an associate's degree in graphics technology from Walla Walla College, a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology, a Master of Science degree in psychology, and a PhD in psychology, all from the University of Oregon. And her professional interests include assessment, research and statistics, empathy and perspective taking, and media psychology. And in her free time, she enjoys hiking, rafting, and walking her dog. So we'll hear a little bit from her. And Dr. Peter Gleason is an associate professor of psychology here at Walla Walla University, and he teaches graduate and undergraduate courses as well. Dr. Gleason previously served as an associate professor of health and behavior at Loma Linda University's School of Public Health, where he won the P. William Dysinger Excellence in Teaching Award. And in addition to teaching graduate courses at Loma Linda University, Dr. Gleason has multiple peer-reviewed publications on topics including maternal and child health issues and high-risk adolescent behaviors. And so Dr. Gleason holds a bachelor's degree from Atlantic Union College, a Master of Arts degree, and doctoral degree, both in psychology from Loma Linda University. And in his free time, he enjoys creative writing and looks forward to teaching his son to sail. So without further ado, I'd like to hand things over. Dr. Linda Ivey and Dr. Peter Gleason, the floor is yours.
All right.
Thank you very much. I sound pretty fancy.
All right. Makes us sound so swanky, doesn't it? Yeah.
I should have people introduce me more often.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is different from Microsoft Teams. I can't see who all is here. I see that.
I think it's because of the nature of our session tonight.
Oh, okay.
It's a little different than usual.
Yeah. All right. So I see some names, but all right. So I'm going to start the party here. I want to talk a little bit about what's a good reason to be a psychology major in general. And then I'm going to talk specifically about why you might want to be a psychology major at Walla Walla University. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a little presentation here. Oh, it says that the host has disabled participant screen sharing. So
Okay.
Aaron, it looks like you need to make me a co-host again.
Yes, let me grant you that. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, try that.
All right. Oh, look, now it's going to let me do it. All right. See if it's going to go here. And all right. So is that screen, which screen is sharing now? Does
I
it
just see your face. I haven't seen anything change yet.
Oh, interesting. Because it shows now, let me go back to here. It shows that I'm sharing screen
So
one.
Dr. Ivy, I think you have to, when you share screen, you have to make sure you select the specific screen that you want to share.
Okay. So it's highlighted, it looks like. There's a screen that's highlighted. Huh. Well, all right, let's try this again. Share screen 2. All right, what do you see now? Nope, that's not the
I haven't
screen
seen
I want.
anything change.
Huh.
So maybe Dr. Ivy, I don't know if is it a PowerPoint? Maybe you can email it to me and I can display it.
Yeah, it is a PowerPoint, and it's showing. Okay, so if I click here, it looks like it's selecting the right one. Oh, I have to click on the share button. I'm so sorry. When
All
I
right,
do this,
I can see it now.
okay, excellent. Okay, does it show this now? It says introduction to the psychology major.
I see it, yes.
Excellent. All right. I apologize about that. There's an extra step that I actually have to click the share button. Okay, so welcome to this little presentation. Sorry it took a while to get that going. So again, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about being a psychology major in general, and then I'm going to talk specifically about Walla University and what we have to offer. So first, if I do the down, there we go. First, I want to do some psychology major myth busting. So many people think that you cannot get a job with a bachelor's degree in psychology. In fact, this is often the joke. Do you want fries with that, right? So it turns out that you actually can. The skills that you gain as a psychology major actually translate well into many different jobs. And Dr. Gleason is going to talk later in this presentation about some of the specific skills that you learn that you can translate that will impress future employers. But just this is a really quick little rundown of some of the things that you can do with a bachelor's degree in psychology, being a camp counselor or a director. Many students who take our forensic psychology degree end up in law enforcement, community service, any sort of community service, director or manager. Psychology is a great starting point for one of those kinds of careers, a bachelor's degree in psychology. So while this myth is not true that you cannot get a job with a bachelor's degree in psychology, another myth is that you can become a therapist with a bachelor's degree. This one is also not true. You are not officially a psychologist if you have a bachelor's degree. In fact, it takes many years of education and training to become a therapist. You need typically, you need at least a master's degree to become a therapist. But you can pursue many jobs in the mental health field with just 4 years of psychology. Often that depends on getting good volunteer or internship experiences. You're not going to be Dr. Phil with just your bachelor's degree, but you can do other things in the field. Another myth that often comes up when you talk about psychology as a major is that psychology is art and not a science. It just seems like, oh, well, you know, it's kind of common sense. It's not, it's just people figuring stuff out as ever they, you know, whatever sounds good at the time. It's not, in fact, psychology is increasingly being included in many universities among the STEM disciplines, science, let's see, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, I believe is STEM. Another really interesting thing, so it's definitely considered a science in most schools. Also, another interesting thing about psychology is that it relates to many other fields of study, and it can be a basis for if you want to do research in, say, artificial intelligence or neuroscience or linguistics. Psychology is a great place to start for many of those as well. And then finally, this is one that I hear a lot, and in fact, you can even see this on the internet. Psychology is an easy major. There's kind of the joke that the football players, oh, well, they'll be psychology majors because obviously academics is not going to be what they're in school for. This actually is kind of an unfortunate myth. Because we sometimes get people who take psychology as a major because they think it's easy, and then they run into, oh, here's the, yeah, I'm just gonna chew gum and play with my hair in class. The reality is that the study of psychology is pretty rigorous. You have to take some pretty significant core classes. You have to understand research methods, or you're not going to do well in the field of psychology. It's a lot of emphasis on being able to read and understand research articles and understand many of the sort of basic science kinds of things, like you know, how neurons work and how drugs interact with your body and those sorts of things. So it's not necessarily an easy major. Oh, and here is the psychology student meme. You know, what my friends think I do. Obviously, I'm obviously analyzing them, always analyzing them. My parents just think I'm burning up money. Why would you take a psychology major? Society thinks I'm Dr. Phil, but I never sleep and actually study a lot. So yeah, so there's a little bit of psychology myth busting before we get into why you would want to be a psychology major. So I'm going to give you some 10 good reasons. We'll sort of quickly go through these, but I wanted to just highlight some of the reasons why you would just want to be a psychology major in general. And first of all, psychology is actually a great undergraduate degree if you want to go on to graduate study in a variety of different things: pre-law, pre-med, pre-occupational therapy. We get a lot of students who go on to different kinds of things after getting a degree in psychology, or even just getting a degree in psychology can help you with a variety of careers, as Dr. Gleason's going to talk about a little bit later as well. Oops, I went the wrong direction. Sorry about that. Also, just learning about psychology is a great, if you just want a general liberal arts degree, it's a great way to learn more about yourself and about other people. And this is actually, a lot of students take psychology as a minor just because they want to learn more about, I mean, they might be a business major or a communications major, but they recognize that psychology has a lot to offer about how people work, including myself and other people. I actually just looked this up today, the job outlook for psychology majors. If you are willing to go on to become a psychologist, which requires a doctoral degree, the job outlook is considered a great deal more than average. 14% growth is expected in this for psychologists in the next 10 years, between 2018 and 2028. it's considered much faster than the average increase for psychology majors. So it's a good time to be getting into that. Psychology can be fun, rewarding, and challenging, which we'll talk more about later. But it's a fascinating. It's one of those fields of study where you get to tell your friends cool things, like, oh, guess what I learned in class today. And many people take a psychology major because they want to help people. This is obviously a great place to start for that. All right, some other good reasons. This is one that I think is really important. Somebody did some research about which kinds of majors are best at figuring out true, sorting out true from false information. For example, information on the internet. So if you take a psychology major, you learn how to ask good questions and how to understand information as it's presented to you, how to look at things in the real world and interpret them and determine whether it's good information or not. Again, I mentioned a psychology degree, not only in psychology, but obviously that's a great place to start if you want to go on to forensic psychology or social psychology or clinical or counseling. A great place to start, but also others if you want to do pre-med or others. Also, an area that you're passionate about. This is one thing that's so cool about psychology. If you're passionate about, media, for example, like how are we influenced by media? You can actually go on to a field where you can study, how media affects people, or health psychology, or whatever it is that you're interested in. Again, impress potential employers. And Peter's going to talk about some of the skills that you can learn that employers will look at. I had a graduate a few years ago who applied for a job at a computer company. She was just looking for work for a year while her husband was getting his master's degree. And they said, oh, we love these psychology majors. They have all these great skills that we look for. So employers will be impressed. And it's just cool to learn about psychology. It's a pretty fun field. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gleason now, and he's going to talk about some of the skills that you learn as a psychology major. And
Thank you, Linda.
Do you want me to just walk it through, or how do you want me to do
Yeah,
it?
just you can just put up all the points there. That way I can see them.
All right.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm excited for your interest in our program. As Linda was talking, my mind was taking me back to when I was in your shoes, thinking about where I was going to go to college, what major I was going to pick. And I was remembering, I don't know what is driving your decisions. Hopefully you're more careful thinkers than I was, but I remember thinking about people in my family, and especially like who did I think was cool and what were they doing as jobs for their work. And one of my, I guess you could use the word role models, was my uncle, who was a psychologist, worked at a hospital down in Orlando. And for some reason, I just decided that I wanted to be like him. So I started doing psychology in undergrad. I didn't really plan ahead. I wasn't thinking about going to graduate school and all that, but life kind of gives you choices. And next thing you know, I get these really cool introductions by Aaron about all the cool things I've done with my life. I'll say personally, psychology excites me. I like the idea of understanding myself and people. I like the I don't want to say competitive, but the part of me that likes the challenge, likes the experience of trying to figure out what are the forces that are limiting us. What are the fears and the doubts and the negative experiences we've had in our lives that hold us back? They hold us back from connecting with other people. They hold us back from trying challenging things. I've had friends, for example, who want to go to medical school. They went in the first year, they did bad on their first test, and then they just decided it was too hard for them. So now they have this idea in their head that they can't do it, and that's limiting them for the rest of their lives. So I love trying to figure out these challenges, trying to figure out what limits me and the people around me. And if things like that are interesting to you, this field, I mean, that's part of what some of the things we talk about. But even a little idea like that, like limitation, think about what that has application to. I mean, in one area is the business area, like the workplace. When you go to work, if you believe you can do things, you believe in yourself, you're going to be a completely different kind of a worker than someone who doesn't have a high opinion of themselves. People around you are going to love working with you if you believe in yourself. So anyway, so there's a lot to take out of psychology. In addition to the workplace, think about your personal lives. If you view yourself as, if you're excited about who you are, right, that's going to affect the personal relationships you have with like your spouse, your relationship with your kids, with your parents, not to mention your boss and your coworkers and all that kind of stuff. So what you believe about who you are, no matter what experiences or events have led you to believe that, your belief is hugely powerful over who you are. And most people never think about that. And definitely most people never challenge that. So, what happens when someone has this really powerful belief about who they are and they're wrong? What happens when that belief is inaccurate? You believe you can't do something, you make all your life decisions around this knowledge that you can't do it, and then come to find out you could have done it the whole time, but you just let it be out of your reach. Things like that, I find it was almost like a call to action to me, to be like, well, let me challenge everything I believe about myself so I can be right, and that I can know what my limits are, but I can also know what my limits aren't. And anyway, that whole aspect of psychology conversation, in addition to much other, to me is very exciting. So I'm looking over the points here. Linda previously referred to the like critical thinking skills that you have to learn in psychology, because psychology is a very abstract field. Some people call it, you might have heard the term soft science. So you have what was called hard sciences, maybe like biology, where you're dealing with things that you can touch and feel and measure in a microscope and all that kind of stuff. And then you have sciences where you study things that you can't see. For example, I was just talking about belief, like your belief about who you are can shape your entire life, but it can't be measured under a microscope. You can't put it in a petri dish. So how do you even study something like that? Many scientists, again, let's say we psychologists are soft scientists because we're studying these invisible things. My opinion, if you care, is I think soft sciences are the more challenging sciences, right? Because the hard sciences, you have proof about stuff, but you have concrete things you can measure. You have tools you can use. Whereas psychologists, we got to study the invisible. And because we have to do that, we need to be really careful. With the tools we use, we need to be careful about the information we use to make our decisions. So being critical about what people tell you, knowing how to decide what is a valid fact versus what is an invalid opinion, and taking all the stuff into account when trying to measure and work with these very difficult topics, is critical to being successful. So again, learning thinking skills, learning communication skills, how to express your ideas, especially, when you're dealing with a difficult topic that many people will have a fair amount of challenge understanding, like, beliefs, again, coming back to that. Being able to take a difficult abstract concept and explain it in a way that makes sense to people, I mean, that's an art, right? So, Linda mentioned that some people consider psychology an art. And, I would say this is an art to being a psychologist, at least being an effective one. Being able to communicate your ideas with grace and ease and in a way that people will want to hear it, is huge. And again, that language skills can serve you as a psychologist, but even if from our lovely program, you decide to go into like a business world or a healthcare world or a ministry world, language skills are going to serve you anywhere. Knowing how to address your ideas to your audience in a way that your audience will care about, that's huge. Many people struggle feeling like, you know, that people don't hear them, don't understand them. I once, little side note, when I was at Loma Linda, I worked with a master's level student. This big kind of muscly guy, and we were talking a lot about communication in that class, and he was in a year-long class that I had. He came up to me at the end of the year, and was reflecting. He said that he had this moment where he realized how much more effective he was in his communication as a result of being in the class. I'm realizing how dark I am. He was reflecting on the fact that at the end of the school year, he felt like he could comfortably approach other people and explain his ideas and stand up for himself, stand up for others, and he wasn't afraid of communicating with people. And he was comparing himself to the beginning of the year when, you know, he was unsure of himself and kind of clumsy with his language. And he said that he was actually like having tears in his eyes as he was describing how much more enabled he felt, because he felt like his language skills, something simple, you might think language skills is not really a big deal, but it could be a huge deal no matter what profession you go into. You can learn some language skills that we need in psychology, but you really need anywhere. So again, information gathering, knowing, you know, being critical about who you can trust for your news sources and your new information, being able to, you know, take different ideas and to feel confident that you can maybe you can mix and match ideas into coming up with your own concept, and feel confident in your ability that your ideas are based on solid information because you chose wisely. I'm sorry, my lighting is freaking me out right now. I feel like I'm
Are you in a
a
thunderstorm right
ghost.
now?
I feel like
Peter?
I'm a ghost.
Yeah,
Anyway,
like you're in a thunderstorm, lightning.
yeah, it would freak my son out. I have a soon-to-be 3-year-old who's very much terrified by the thunder.
Oh,
Research. I could ask for hands, but I can't see your hands. Many people are intimidated about the word research and statistics and what that means. One of my personal passions, and I know Linda mentioned it too, is statistics and research. And I really had a blessing when I was at Loma Linda to work with faculty who really kind of took me under their wing and showed me how research doesn't need to be scary, and it can be this very constructive, empowering experience. So, you know, we've actually been taking a lot of steps lately to try to bring that same experience to our students here. I know people can come up with all kinds you may come in with all different ideas about what research is. My personal goal, and I think Linda will back me up too, is that by the time you leave here, we want you to have a very positive experience with research, so that if you do decide to go into grad school, obviously your choice, there will be a lot more research in graduate school, but you'll feel confident that you'll have the skills to take on those challenges. So we want to give you the skills to do research. We want to give you the opportunity to do something you're proud of while you're here. And also we want to give you the ability to feel like you're prepared for whatever it is that's going to come next. And stats, there's a lot of career applications for statistics and research. One of the jobs you can get out of a bachelor's program in psychology is jobs in research, and research and analysis, in businesses and things like that. And stat skills lend themselves to that also. Some people find that they actually really like research. Some people it's not really their thing, but you can decide. Still bugging me. You can decide you don't like research. I just don't want you to be afraid of research. So that's some of our passion here. Interpersonal skills is a area that I'm really excited about. I actually do consulting work outside of my teaching job, where I work with professional environments, trying to create cultures in businesses where people have exceptional interpersonal skills, where people understand and appreciate each other, They understand the differences in what drives us, the differences in what we're passionate about, differences in what provokes conflict in us. How do we handle that conflict? And then, you know, what are the strengths we like to use to get things done? What happens when we can't use those strengths? You know, it's a complicated conversation, but, you know, many huge, like Fortune 100 companies pay people to come in and teach their employees how to have effective interpersonal skills. And one of the things actually that separates Walla Walla from other universities is we've actually partnered with one of the most prolific interpersonal skill training companies. And we actually are offering these skills to our students. So actually, I have a class, for example, I've taken the workshop that, like, say you work at Apple. They're one of the companies that uses this for their employees. So you would go to this workshop where there's all these interactions and you learn these skills, and this will be done by a facilitator who comes in to make this happen. So I'm one of these facilitators, and so I actually have turned that whole workshop into a course, so students can have these same conversations and have these same certifications, so that when you graduate our program, you'll have things on your resumes that employees at Apple and ExxonMobil and I'm blanking, but like
Many more.
many more, Princess Cruise Lines. But like literally, if you look up a list of Fortune 100 companies, 90 of them, so 90%, you know, that's statistics, right? 90% of them actually use the same exact skill set that you can get if you come join us here. So understanding the history of psychology and how it relates to history in general, there's, you know, the history of psychology has some very interesting stories, good and bad. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned from how we've figured out how to treat each other. So understanding ethics and values and how to treat other people. And I think, you know, one of the things I like to point out is like conversations of diversity, I'll pick on, there's whole layers and nuances to the conversations that most people, I feel like, don't even appreciate how deep some of these conversations can go. And I believe that within an environment of a learning environment of psychology, we can begin to understand some of the things that make us similar and different from other people in whole new ways. So even if you learn none of these other skills in psychology, you can and will learn just a deeper appreciation of people. So in summarizing this whole slide, you get exposure to a whole bunch of critical skills for whatever career you want to go to. You get comfortable with your own abilities to do things like research and statistics, and you get a deep understanding and appreciation for people and who we are and what makes us tick. So that, Linda, I'm winding down my speech here. Is there anything that maybe I missed that you would want to add on?
I'm gonna go. I think one of the things I'm going to talk about is you've kind of already touched on, but I think some stuff specific to our school and why they would want to choose our school to learn this. And you've already kind of previewed that for me. So I'm just going to talk now about what your options are if you decide to become a psychology major at Walla Walla University. And we actually have three different options, 3 bachelor's degrees. So just to sort of highlight the differences between them, you can get a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. And this is what our pre-professional students tend to do. And this requires a minor. And usually a pre-professional student, say if they're pre-law, then they'll get a minor in history, for example, or in legal studies. Or if you're pre-med, they'll get a minor in biology. So often our pre-professional students will take a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts degree. So the differences are, it requires a minor and at least 2 terms of a foreign language. which there's plenty of those offered here. A Bachelor of Science degree is what our students do, who are, most of the students who are interested in going on to a field in psychology. And that requires one additional class that's not required for the BA degree. And it includes a psychology practicum and a senior project or thesis. So it demonstrates more interest in the field of psychology itself. So if you want to go on to a career in psychology, most of our students choose this Bachelor of Science option. By the way, these are not set in stone. There are students who get a BA degree and they go on to a field in psychology, and some of our pre-professional students get a BS degree. So it's not one or the other, but this is just typically how they do it. And then finally, we have a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Psychology. And this was a relatively new, I think this is 14 or 15 years old, a very popular degree that we have. And there's fewer actual psychology courses required for this, but there's additional courses in criminal justice that are taught in other departments. And most of the students who take this go on to careers in law enforcement or parole and probation, or in some sort of law field. We've had students go get master's degrees in forensic psychology. So those are the options. So that's one of the real benefits of coming to Walla Walla University, is that you have choices for which psychology degree that you want to get. And then just more at a micro level, other benefits of taking a psychology major at Walla Walla University is that the class sizes are really nice. They're not tiny, but they're also not huge. Like, usually the professors get to know all the students in their classes, and they interact with the students. And don't underestimate this also. In many large universities, the classes are taught by graduate students and not by actual people with degrees in psychology. So all of the courses here at Walla Walla are taught by faculty who have degrees in psychology. So that's another benefit. Dr. Gleason mentioned this, research opportunities. This is something we've become way more serious about just in the last few years. As he mentioned, he doesn't want any student to escape without getting some kind of research experience. And this year he actually had several students who were accepted to present posters at a conference that sadly was canceled. But we're really very serious about this. We have classes that you can register for that are just to do research of either of your own choosing, or just join a project that one of the faculty members is doing. And again, as he mentioned, students who want to go on to graduate school, that's a huge line on your resume right there. We also have active psychology club with leadership opportunities for students and opportunities to just engage with other students in the program. We also have really good practicum experiences. We have some local like therapists in the community, school counselors in the community, a couple of school psychologists who are really eager to work with our psychology students, and they offer really good volunteer opportunities with great supervision to help our students learn more about what it's like to work in the mental health field. And then finally, this is something else that we're working on just in the last few months, is class projects that integrate what you learn across disciplines in psychology. So you might be taking a class in biological psychology, someone else may be taking abnormal psychology, someone else may be taking forensic psychology. And we have projects where the students in those different classes actually work on a particular case study from all those different angles. And it makes it just very relevant. It makes it very applicable to things that happen in the real world. So those are all benefits that we try to encourage. If you come to Walla Walla University, you can experience not only the benefits of being a psychology major, but the particular advantages that we have at our school. So that's all that I have. And now we will open it up for questions.
Hey, Linda, may I make a comment about the research presentations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you mentioned that we had a few students who were accepted. Just to add some points to that, we had 3 seniors this year who won grants to go speak at conferences. We had 3 students who were accepted to present at the world's largest undergraduate symposium. And it was located in, where was it? Montana this year.
Montana, yeah.
And then at the last minute, because of this virus thing, it got canceled. So unfortunately, they lost that opportunity. But it was excellent for them that they won that opportunity, that the organization had selected them to come and speak. It was a great honor. And these are definitely kinds of opportunities that are available, and we want to have for students who want them.
Yeah.
So I'm done now.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
So for those of you that are here, we want you to know that there's a Q&A button at the bottom of this box, this window. And so if you would like to ask a question, this is where you can submit a question, and Dr. Ivy or Dr. Gleason will answer. We already have one question, and that question is from George. And George is asking, what are your thoughts on psychology pre-med?
I'm going to let Dr. Gleason answer that because you work at Loma Linda University with the med students.
I believe that there's actually, the trend is more and more students are choosing psychology as a pre-med course, or not course, but major, partially because, a good amount of the tests you need to pass to get into medical school involve a lot of research, and actually psychology specific, like neuroscience and elements like that. So some schools, like for example, well, I'm not going to name specifics, but some schools will have, like, they'll call psychology like pre-professional, a pre-professional program. And we're not labeled that way, but we are essentially effectively an excellent option for someone who's thinking about themselves as being a pre-professional.
I was just reading 18% of people who get into medical school are something other than biology or chemistry majors. And I forget, a large portion of that 18% are psychology majors. So it's not uncommon.
Okay, Madeline is asking, or Madeline says, I would really like to become a psychiatrist someday. Psychology is most likely the best major for this, correct?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I mean, psychiatry is medical school, but psychology would certainly be a good base for that as pre-med.
Agreed. That's psychology plus medicine. Yeah.
Yep.
Audrey asks, how many years does it take to become a licensed psychologist? And do you have to get a master's before you can get a
SID?
Right.
Yeah, you do. And it depends on what school you go to. Many programs, they will accept you with a bachelor's degree, and they take you right through to a doctoral degree, and you don't have to have a separate program for a master's. Where I went to school at Oregon, I had a bachelor's degree and I got accepted, and along the way they gave me a master's degree, but I was in a doctoral program. So you can do it that way. Some of the programs you can get a master's degree first and then get into a doctoral program, but many of them you just go right in. And it's between 4 and 5 years, depending on how motivated you are, to get the coursework done. And then there's usually at least a 1-year internship after that.
And I'll say the same thing from my experience at Loma Linda. You got the master's on the way to the doctorate. In fact, in my experience, many graduate programs they don't want you to have an outside master's degree. They want to give you the graduate level training.
Yep.
I think that's actually an accreditation issue. The graduate school has to give you everything you need. even if you gotten it already somewhere else. So to that point, some people feel like if you get a master's and then you apply to graduate school, it makes you a better applicant. But actually, it could just add a couple more years to your time because you just got an extra master's degree you don't need.
Yeah, one of the reasons for doing that is if your GPA as an undergrad is not great, and you're having difficulty getting into a doctoral program, then sometimes they recommend go in a master's program first. But it does add time to your to your career, your educational experience.
Okay, Brittany asks, what real life experience do you get? I'm assuming from the program here at Walla Walla.
I wonder if she's referring to the practicum experience, if that's what she's asking. What are the options for that? And if that's the case, then we have several. We have a school counselor that people can go and work with the kids in the school. There's actually a couple of different options for that. We have a school counselor, and then there's also an after-school coordinator that does some of our practicum experience. We have a mental health agency here where students can get experience observing on the crisis line or the home health, mental health care, even visiting in the prisons. Another one that we have is Children's Home Society, where you go and work with families, typically low-income families, working with family therapy in those kinds of situations. So those are some of the experiences, if that's the question that she was asking.
Jessica is asking, after undergrad, receiving your bachelor's, you can either get a master's or go straight to a doctorate degree, or do you have to get a master's before you get a doctorate?
Yeah, so if you get a doctorate degree, you will get a master's along the way. That's a necessary step, but you don't have to do a separate master's degree. Often if you get accepted into a doctoral program, they'll just give you a master's degree along the way, but it always has to happen before. But it doesn't have to be separate from your doctoral program. I'm not sure I explained that well.
I thought you did pretty good.
Thanks, Peter. By the way, hi, Jessica. I think I spoke with Jessica on the phone.
Again, if anyone has any questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of this window. And we have Faith. What percentage of bilingual psychologists are currently part of the National Organization for Psychologists? And which foreign language would complement your skill set best?
Oh, wow. That's
a very specific question.
Yeah. Well, in the United States, I would say Spanish probably, because we have a really high proportion of Latina and Latino people in the community. So especially in places in the South, Texas, California, Spanish would be highly advantageous. As far as what percentage, I don't even have a single clue about that. Do you, Peter?
I do not. I know that, yeah, being bilingual is a huge asset, especially depending on, where you're located geographically.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't answer I'd have to Google it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I do know I've had students who graduated from here and they got either accepted into a program or got a job, particularly because they were bilingual. So I know it's never a disadvantage when you're looking for getting into a graduate program or getting a job.
All right. We'll see if there are any more questions that come in. If you have any questions, you can ask them here, or you can contact Dr. Ivy or Dr. Gleason. I'm sure they'd be willing and able to answer your
Absolutely.
questions.
Yeah.
You can reach out to them directly. Dr. Ivy's email address is linda.ivy@wallawalla.edu. And Dr. Gleason's email address is peter.gleason@wallawalla.edu. The easiest way I get everyone's contact information is just simply search psychology, Walla Walla University, and you can get a whole list of the faculty there, and you get a feel of, you can see all their email addresses there. So if you have questions, more questions, feel free to reach out to either Dr. Ivy or Dr. Gleason directly. I don't